Hey everybody, welcome to my Suburban Oasis. I have a great video for you today. We're going to talk a little bit about planting several plants. We are going to plant a little lime hydrangea, but before that I want to show you a little bit about some of the plants that I got in the last plant haul video. I have some blue marble salvia and I have some pink magic aster as well as a vision astilbe. And I want to show you where I planted the salvias. I'm going to plant the astilbe and we're going to plant the little lime hydrangea. So if you're enjoying my channel so far, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe, even hit that notification bell to get notified anytime a new video comes out. Alright, so we're going to start by showing you where I planted a few things and then we're going to get right into planting. So over here in this bed, you'll see that I've spent some time trying to think about things that provide some fall color for me, and I was able to plant the pink aster in the back here. You'll see that is right next to some of my gay feather, which is also referred to as the Liatris spicata. That one is a pink flower. And then over here I have placed one of the blue, this is the blue marble salvia, and then what I'm doing is I'm kind of tying it into these other salvias that I have along here. So this one is an azure snow, and then I have another blue marble salvia, and then this one here is the crystal blue salvia, which blooms a very light blue color. We have a strawberry Sunday hydrangea right here. And then on the other side, we've repeated a little bit of the combination, which is the crystal blue salvia. You can see that light blue color on that. And then we'll have another azure snow, which is like a deep blue, almost purple and white colored flower. So I think those are gonna look all really magical together, and I'm super excited to have an additional aster in this. And these salvias along the border edge here are going to provide a really wonderful opportunity to see color within the summer garden, and they rebloom quite frequently. So let's move on now and we're going to go plant the astilbe. So I definitely feel like I've lost some of my dianthus in this bed. I think I've shared with you that they may have caught some kind of fungal disease. I'm not sure exactly what affected them, but whatever they had in the pot definitely got them when I got them from the nursery. So I have this astilbe, which is a vision astilbe. And what I want to do is I want to take this canary ajuga right here and I'm going to move it. This is a dianthus that is pretty much deceased. It has a little green growth, so I'm going to move it over slightly. Maybe it'll come back next year. I don't want to completely give up on the guy, but I'm going to move that over slightly. I'm going to plant the ajuga where it's at, and then I'm going to plant the astilbe where the ajuga is. So this is kind of like my my leapfrog plants, or as another viewer called it, they're musical plants where we move them around a bit. So we'll pull this ajuga, which is super easy to do. One subscriber did ask me, is this ajuga more yellow or more green? And I would say to you, it is a bit of a chartreuse color, and I think that as the leaves age, they get a little bit more yellow. They start out more green and then they turn a little more yellow over time. So I'm just going to scoot this dianthus over just a skosh and we'll plant the dianthus right about there. Excuse me, we'll plant the ajuga right about where the dianthus is. So this dianthus just has very little in the way of green growth, but there's a little bit on there. So there is a possibility that it will revive itself. What I'm just going to do is pull all of this nursery junk off of it. I think that's part of the problem. I have learned that in my clay soil, if you have what came with the nursery, whether it's this pine bark mix or if it is a mix that is primarily based with oh my goodness, what do you call that stuff? Peat moss. If it's primarily encased in peat, they just don't do well in the clay because I think they actually get too much water. So now I'm going to throw this one in that hole that was right there. And this ajuga, you guys, next year in the spring, right around May, oh, it's going to look so amazing. It's going to have blooms all in here. Now I need to be a little bit careful because I have a blue moon phlox that's right here. It's trying to revive itself after a whole lot of rabbits eating it. So it's got some very small tendrils there, but the roots are solid and I think it's gonna come back. They actually ate quite a few of them. Rabbits or groundhog, I don't know. You guys, I think I have a whole nother groundhog going on. So this Astilbe is definitely planted in a ton of peat. So I'll show you what I'm gonna do. You can tell how incredibly dense and how much water this peat actually retains, which is not always good for plants. If you have really well draining soil, I'm sure it won't affect you as much, but if you have clay soil, you may want to do a bit like I'm doing right here, which is just kind of loosening that peat away from the roots, giving them a little bit of a break and an ability to stretch out. It's kind of like being in a suit, right? I don't know about you guys, but I don't like wearing suits. It kind of make me feel a little bit like I'm constrained. So I think that's what it does to the roots. And so now I'm just mixing it in with some of the native soil here. I'm probably going to pull up a little bit more of the native soil just to get a really good mix. Because it's so dense. Alright, now Astilbes are great for like part shade. They provide a nice bloom. And I have two other Vision Astilbes already that I planted in this bed the other day when it finally stopped raining. Okay, I think that looks pretty good, guys. Alright, let's go look at the little lime hydrangeas and decide which one we're going to plant. I've got two of them, so I just have to pick one. So I got both of these little limes on clearance, and they were $12.50 each, if you can believe it. And I'm really excited to be putting one of them into the ground today. I'm going to pick this one. This one still looks like it has some nice fresh blooms on it, so I'm going to let it continue to grow on here until I decide where I want to plant that one. I do have an idea for it, but I want to make sure that it's kind of solid in my brain before I actually execute. So let's get this one on the dolly. This dolly is a really simple dolly. It is just something that is really helpful to me when I'm moving things around the yard. It's helpful for moving rocks, it's helpful for moving any heavy objects that I need to get across a long space. So I'm just going to take the pot toes out from beneath this and then I'll load it on. If you didn't see my video, these pot toes are these wonderful little plastic doodads that you can get. They are called pot toes and they stack. They go under all sorts of pots. They help save your deck and they help ensure that you have adequate drainage and space between your pot and the ground or the deck or whatever surface your pot is on. Okay, we're just about loaded up. Let's go. All right, the mosquitoes are out again, you guys. I've just been cleaning up after we had a rainstorm the other day. I think we probably got about an inch of rain and it just seems to bring them back out again. So I'm going to come back in this gardening bed and I want to show you where I'm going to be planting this. Right now I have some really old Russian sage that is not getting enough light, so it's really not thriving. It's just kind of surviving, and it looks kind of cool at the end of summer because it's kind of drapey and pretty, but it really doesn't do enough for me. And this hosta is really low and it doesn't have enough height for people to be able to see it. Now I do have a shrub over here. This is a rainbow Hydrangea, and it will bloom and it's variegated, so it's very gorgeous, but that's probably only going to get to be about 3 or 4 feet high as well. So what I want to do is put this hydrangea in this particular area right here so that it can kind of fill in this hole, and I'll plant it back here, and that way it will sort of drape forward and over this rainbow Hydrangea as well. And while it looks like this Russian sage is in this spot, it's really actually quite far back. And I'm not concerned about it at all because, again, it really doesn't thrive right here. All I'm going to do is dig out this hosta, and then we're going to place the hydrangea right in here. All right, here we go. I've gotten a lot of questions from people about whether I fertilize. I don't usually fertilize. I might throw down a little bit of organic fertilizer for my roses because they're heavy feeders. And I might throw down some biotone in with some roots if it's something I got on clearance and it doesn't look that great and it needs a little help to get started. But overall, things in my yard seem to thrive without any fertilizer. So let's get the hydrangea out of the pot now. My guess is that although this has been in the pot for about a month, it probably will not have strongly rooted in. So I'm just going to test that out first by kind of gently tugging on the main stems. So let's see what happens when I pull up. Absolutely nothing. So that means it's probably rooted in pretty well. Better than I may have thought. So I'm going to tip it on its side, and we'll use the shovel to help kind of pry it away from the edges of the container. One of the things I do recommend to people who are planting things in pots is to consider the shape of the container. Make sure that the bottom of the container is either the same width or smaller than the top of the container. The reason for that is because if you ever want to take something out of a container and the top of the container is smaller than the bottom, it can be really difficult to get out. So it's just a good kind of rule of thumb to have anytime you're thinking about purchasing a container. Oh, I just lost one of the flowers, rats. Well, that was probably bound to happen. I think I've got it loose enough to pull now. Just going to try to wiggle it out. Wow, this guy really rooted in. He's so healthy. That's exciting. What that does mean, though, is that I probably might have to dig a little bit bigger hole than normal. Let's see what kind of soil falls off of this when I lift it over the pot. It's good to know just how healthy this is, though. One of the things that I don't worry about too much is these surface roots. The most important part is for these lower roots to really continue to develop. You want to encourage it to grow downwards as much as possible so that it can take advantage of the moisture that's down deep in the soil, especially if it doesn't rain for too long. Alright, we're going to balance that there, and I'm going to dig the hole to make sure that it's big enough to fit the hydrangea in. Okay, we may even have to lose some other plants, but I think that we're going to have plenty of room here still, even with the larger root ball than was expected. So nice to know that that was so healthy now. when I got that on clearance, I was super impressed because it was not in any distress. It was just like this quick fire sale that Lowe's had going on for like one day only. And I really lucked out by coming upon it. I didn't know that it was happening. My son and I just were out shopping and buying him little candy. And I got a little treat for myself, a couple of little lime hydrangeas. Just what a gardener needs, right? Wow, this soil is super awesome here. I thought it was going to be dry and tough, but I guess this recent rain really helped loosen it up for me. Tell you what, fall is definitely the time for planting trees and shrubs. It still is quite dry though, so after I get it in the hole, I am definitely going to have to water. Alright, I think that's deep enough. Let's grab the hydrangea. Now, if this hydrangea was not in such good shape, I would definitely add a little biotone into the holes. But I think it is in very good shape. And the soil here, as I just said, looks really amazing. It is not super hard. I think the roots are going to do just fine in it. My biggest concern is that I get this deep enough. Okay, that looks right. I'm going to backfill now. So you want to make sure definitely to break up any clods of soil. You don't want to try to put it back and expect it to do that on its own. One thing I have learned about planting your arborvitaes is that they take a lot of water. They create dry soil around them. The nice thing about them though for hydrangeas is hydrangeas don't mind a little bit of acidity. Even though this one's not one that changes based on the acidity of the soil in terms of the color of the blooms, it will not mind any extra like pine needle residue. These are not really needles per se. I'm not even sure what you call them, but maybe they are just really small needles. Anyhow, we have this in now, and I'm just going to pull back some of these Russian sage, break them down at the very base of the plant. If they grow back next year, that's fine, but they are not very vigorous because it's just not an area that they will thrive in. And then I'll leave them on the ground back behind the hydrangea. And this is simply a method called chop and drop. You may have heard of it if you are a vegetable gardener, but people will chop their vegetables off or any other type of vegetation, leave it on the ground, drop it, and it will turn into compost and help feed the soil for your plants. So it's going to feed this hydrangea. Alright, so I'm just going to water all of these in, and that's pretty much it for today. I hope that you enjoyed my video today, and I hope you're enjoying the fall planting season. What are you guys finding on sale? Anything yet? Right now, I don't see anything on sale. I think it's going to come in a couple of weeks. But what do you have in your yard that you're looking to plant right now? Tell me if you're dividing anything, or if you're replanting things or transplanting things in different areas. I'd love to hear about it. Thanks again for joining me, and we'll see you next time. Bye!